Good morning, my name is Josh from Cyclones Oz, and here is your detailed weather forecast update for Wednesday, the 1st of October 2025, the official start of thunderstorm season and the wet season up across northern Australia. It's an exciting day, that's for sure, for all weather trackers, but we've got some exciting storms on the forecast, particularly tomorrow across parts of the Capricorn coastline in Queensland, and the long-range forecast is also looking exciting for parts of Queensland and the Northern Territory. Let's just dive straight into things today over in Queensland. If you're brand new to the channel, please do consider subscribing, but we do have a bit of a thunderstorm outbreak, if you could call it that, later this afternoon and this evening, expected through parts of south central Queensland and into the northeast of New South Wales. Currently, you can see this big cloud band moving through parts of Queensland. The temperatures are warm and they're definitely warming up quite quickly, but this cloud band here is expected to cause some problems for thunderstorm activity, especially later tonight. We're not expecting this cloud band to be a helpful factor, that's for sure, in the storm forecast, and let me show you what I mean right now. You can see as this cloud band does move through in the latest frames, it is now making its way towards southeast Queensland, and it's particularly covering the thunderstorm grounds that we're expecting to have these thunderstorms today, north of Roma and around Roma, and then down into the southeast corner of Queensland around Goondiwindi and Warwick, and then into the northeast of New South Wales, but to a bit of a lesser degree. There is some pretty heavy cloud cover down there. Now, this is holding those temperatures back. You can see right now, Kingaroy 19, they're a little bit more elevated, 23 here at Miles, but compared to places that aren't currently covered by cloud, especially as you get a little bit further north, we're looking at 25 around Longreach, 27 here up around Winton, 26 right down here at St. George. There's a bit of a temperature difference, and that's going to hurt some of these thunderstorm developments compared to where the cloud is and where the cloud isn't. Temperatures are just a little bit too cool right now for these thunderstorms to really make the most of, and that is reflected in the forecast modelling. You can see whilst thunderstorms are possible tonight, in particularly towards the northeast of Roma, just in this little pocket here around Injune to Room, and then towards the north of Chinchilla, in a very minimal capacity by the looks of things, and these thunderstorms not lasting for all too long either. Thunderstorms are more likely now to occur into the northeast of New South Wales, where we've got less of that cloud and more of the available energy for these thunderstorms to make the most of. So in particular, the places to watch this afternoon and this evening will be those around Tamworth and Armidale into the central tablelands of New South Wales, and then along the mid-north coast between Taree up to about Coffs Harbour, we'll be seeing a chance of thunderstorms developing through this afternoon into this evening. In particular, after about midday, right out to about 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon is what we're expecting thunderstorms to be making the most of. Thunderstorms will be dying off at around 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening. And then for Queensland, the chance of severe thunderstorms is there, but it'll be really remote, the chance that is, and just towards the northeast of sort of Taroom and Injune is exactly where we're expecting those thunderstorms to be at their strongest. It really is going to be a lackluster outbreak, again, if you could even call that an outbreak, throughout tonight and into tomorrow. Convective available potential energy values are okay for these systems, for these storms here, especially on the New South Wales side of things. There is going to be plenty of energy in the atmosphere through the mid-north coast, so this is definitely going to be a bit of a chance for some stronger thunderstorms if they can even get themselves going. But all in all, this is not a very healthy thunderstorm forecast that we're looking at, and probably the only reason that we are seeing thunderstorms developing is now that the fact that it is October and we are in storm season. These thunderstorms do have a lot going for them just to start things off, but at this point in time, we're not expecting anything too crazy throughout the course of today. Now, I've flicked it over to the humidity, and I'll show you why that is into the mid-levels. We do have some half-decent moisture values, especially through later this afternoon through parts of Queensland, and they do increase substantially when you get up and towards the upper levels, but there's just too much dry air in the environment for thunderstorms to make the most of. This does change up a little bit for yesterday, and we've been talking about the central coast of Queensland as a hotspot for thunderstorm activity pretty much for the past week, and it looks like tomorrow is going to be no different to that. We're talking about some pretty good conditions developing around the Capricorn coastline, particularly south of Gladstone down to Bundaberg and Harvey Bay. And I do reckon, I said this yesterday, but west of Bundaberg is going to be a hotspot for thunderstorm activity. And the reason for that is good mid-level humidity values and some great convective available potential energy values. Right up to about the 500 or even the 400 HPA levels, there's great conditions for these thunderstorms to make the most of. And that looks like it's going to be good enough for some thunderstorms to develop throughout this part of Queensland or through the Capricorn coastline through tomorrow. And you can see that on the forecast modelling. Most models are not overly confident on a widespread outbreak developing. Some good thunderstorms are still most certainly possible between Bundaberg up to about Gladstone. You can see just the northwest of Bundaberg, a bit of a hotspot there on the forecast modelling. It looks like the forecast is now picking up on that quite significantly. Convective available potential energy values are also looking quite healthy by the looks of things. You can see values here between the 1800 to 2200 joules per kilogram of available energy in the atmosphere for these storms to make the most of, and they do actually increase a little bit later on into the afternoon So great values looking like along the Capricorn coastline, again with good humidity in the lower and the mid levels. Great temperatures also on the forecast for tomorrow. We're definitely looking at a bit of a hot one for this part of Queensland. It does look like conditions are beginning to align for what could be a very isolated but still quite a weak severe thunderstorm outbreak in this part of Queensland. Again, the one thing holding back these thunderstorms will be that moisture. Whilst it is good, it's not great, it's not anything special, so we're really going to have to watch that very closely, and I think tomorrow morning's forecast will paint a very accurate picture on what we can expect. Now, what I like to use when making a thunderstorm forecast, especially in the short range, is the convective forecast models. They are deadly accurate, very concentrated forecast modeling here from the Access Convective branch, and you can see by around 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon we already have a good expanse of thunderstorms beginning to develop in this part of Queensland. This is a good indicator that we are going to be seeing thunderstorms. Generally speaking, when we see this speckled sort of stuff, that's the Access just overestimating what happens to clouds when they develop in the atmosphere. But this already looks like a good chance for thunderstorms to develop again towards the northwest of Bundaberg. It'll be interesting to see what actually does develop there. And if we compare that with the forecast from the convective models for today, you can see that tomorrow is looking like a much better chance of thunderstorm activity through the central coast of Queensland, as opposed to what today is looking like for more inland parts of Queensland. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens here. I'm very excited to see this, our first proper, again, if you could even call it an outbreak, but it is our first proper multi-day event for thunderstorms in this part of Queensland for storm season. So it does make me excited, and I imagine a lot of other people are in the same boat as well, very excited for these thunderstorms. Now, severe thunderstorms can bring hazards. They can bring heavy rainfall, damaging winds, and large hailstones, and also the isolated risk of tornadoes and rotating willy-willies. That is a occurring thing in Australia. We do see between 30 to 80 of those tornado or tornado-type events every single year in Australia. Most of them do go undocumented because they happen in such remote areas, but just keep in mind that severe thunderstorms will always carry those risks. And we are going to be talking about severe thunderstorms, so not so much today, but definitely tomorrow. So keep those risks in the back of your head, and tomorrow will definitely be a day, especially on the Capricorn coastline, to monitor the radar page, monitor the warnings page, and monitor other forecasts very, very closely indeed. There's no better way to do that than by subscribing to the Cyclones Oz channel. So interesting stuff, that's for sure. Plenty of things to be keeping us on our toes in towards southeast Queensland, and it does look like it gets busier. We pointed out yesterday that the 10th of October is going to be a next chance for thunderstorms. That most certainly still looks like it's going to be the case here. Thunderstorms possible through New South Wales as northeast on the 10th of October, and then into southeast Queensland on the 10th and the 11th of October, and then building again in a bit more of a dramatic fashion by the looks of things on the 11th of October, and potentially out to the 12th of October as well. But increasing moisture in the atmosphere around Queensland and the potential for thunderstorms pretty much every day after the 10th of October for about a week, or even up to about 8 or 9 days straight for southeast Queensland. It looks like we are going to be talking about another thunderstorm outbreak around there. Now, what I've seen in the forecast models that's changed from yesterday is that this kind of is split into two events, and this actually aligns with some other long-range forecasts that I follow, not necessarily between the 10th to the 12th of October where we have that one first outbreak of thunderstorms, but particularly between the 15th out to about the 18th of October. That's been highlighted for about the last 3 months has been a bit of a hot run for southeast Queensland, and that looks like when we're going to be seeing some good severe thunderstorms developing through Queensland southeast, but especially further north of southeast Queensland into the Capricorn coastline once again, and then through parts of central Queensland and the Whitsunday. So definitely will be a time to watch out there. And again, whilst nothing crazy is on the forecast modelling right now, and obviously nothing crazy beyond the forecast modelling for the next couple of days until this event does become a little bit closer, we are now starting to see some signals of rainfall developing in these thunderstorm zones, which would necessarily mean thunderstorms at this time of the year after the 10th of October. So it's good to see that the forecast models are now beginning to jump on board with what our long-range conjecture was beginning to say. And it also looks like some good rainfall is expected up in towards northern Queensland as well. You can see some proper rainfall beginning to develop around the Cassowary coast and the Daintree rainforest after the 10th of October. We're not expecting true wet season rainfall to develop into the Cassowary coast until at least November. And December and January, as we keep mentioning, have been highlighted as some pretty big months for far northern Queensland throughout much of the Cape York Peninsula and just northern Queensland in general. But at this point in time, with the rainfall up in towards north Queensland, apart from around parts of the Cassowary coast that received some of the worst rainfall on record last month for the month of September, a lot of the rainfall up in northern Queensland will be very welcome around this time of the year. So it's good to see that we're now starting to see some showers and the odd storm on the forecast across parts of the Cape York Peninsula. That's very good to see around this time of the year. And thunderstorms also now bouncing onto the forecast, not so much into the short range for the Northern Territory, but definitely into the top end of the Northern Territory after the 10th of October. It looks like that Hector, or Hector the convector as it's known up there, and then low pressure now begins to fire up thunderstorms on a pretty consistent basis, or at least a semi-consistent basis through the northern parts of the Northern Territory. Definitely with that heat building right now, it's hard to believe that thunderstorms are not going to become more widespread through the Northern Territory and by extension over and towards Western Australia as well. In terms of the temperature forecast, really beginning to warm up as we get out towards mid-October. That's stuff that we expected this time of the year, but around the Pilbara coastline of WA, that's really where things are going to start to get quite warm. 44 already on the forecast through parts of the Pilbara and the Kimberley region, and high 30s, early 40-degree days expected pretty much from this point onwards until at least late April into early May. So get ready for the heat. It is arriving and it's coming in thick and fast. Now, just back to the rainfall forecast, we are talking about that Indian Ocean dipole, which is still strongly in that negative event. Over the next couple of weeks, we're going to see rainfall like this build, but it's going to build closer and closer to Western Australia. So the risk of tropical lows now begins to become a probability, especially with that negative Indian Ocean dipole event. The risk of tropical lows and cyclone activity around the northwest coast of WA starts off a lot earlier than it would normally in a regular season. So to see rainfall accumulations like this massive splotch of nearly 300 millimeters over the 14-day rainfall forecast here is still well offshore from Western Australia. In fact, it's around the Cocos Keeling Islands here. But once this starts to creep closer towards the WA coastline, the risk of tropical lows around the WA coastline will begin to increase, and that's likely to happen sometime around late October into early November. But for now, no tropical signals are on the forecast on either side of Australia, and if there is a tropical signal on the forecast, then you bet the Cyclone Source page will be the first to let you know. That's going to have to do it for today's weather forecast update. Choosing to neglect all of the winter weather forecast down in the southwest and the southeast of the nation is no longer relevant. We're looking at summer, but now there are a few storms going down there. But check out the Facebook page. I'll have some information on those later on today. That's going to do it for me today. Special shout out, of course, to the channel sponsors. Their names are on screen right now. A massive thank you to all of them, especially the ones over on Facebook as well who have just joined. Their support is massively appreciated, and I could not run this show without them, of course. Also a special thank you to everybody that's following along and subscribing. I've got another special video coming out. I'm not sure if it'll come out today or tomorrow, whenever I've scheduled it, but it is about the Southern Annular Mode. It is a popular request, so make sure you do stick around for that. But that's going to be all from me today, and I'll catch you on the next storm. Goodbye.